Yo, what up you guys? It's your boy the Kryptonian Saiyan here, bringing you a review for One Piece chapter 117. And this chapter, I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. And a big part of the reason why I enjoyed the chapter is, for me as a guy, I could totally relate to Broggy and Brogy and Dorry, because it's kind of like what's going on with the NCAA tournament right now, where you got some teams where they know chances are they're going to lose a game. Look at a team like Michigan State, where they never once led, and they knew they took their opponent for granted. MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University, they never led. They took them for granted, but they continued to fight their way through, because you're representing that name on the front of your chest, the front of your jersey, which is the team. And even though they lost and they might have started out behind the 8 ball, they at least tried to come back and win. They had pride in themselves, and that's what's going on with these two. They've been fighting for over 100 years, 73,634 battles, and yet they're continuing to press forward. And I thought that it was very nice of Oda to be able to show that disconnect between Nami and Usopp, and then Vivi and Luffy. Because the thing is, a lot of times when men try to write female characters and when women try to write male characters, it's hard to snap off that one side of your brain, and so the characters don't come off as being realistic. It's why you have manga writers like Kishimoto who say, I suck at writing romance, and when they try to write it in their mangas, it comes off as being forced or awkward or poorly written, which is why Kishi had to go through and get a team of writers to write Naruto the Last and write the Boruto movie, because there was a little romance in that. And the thing is I say that to say this. Women usually write women characters better, men write male characters better, but in this case, Oda captures the female brain very well, because most women would look at what these two are doing, Brogy and Dorry, and go, what the hell is going on here? This is useless fighting. They don't even know why they're fighting anymore. What's going on? I like how he was able to capture it in just their mannerisms, like how Nami just sat down and put her hand, like her cheek in her hand, and crossed her legs. Very small things like that. That is something that a woman would do in that situation. And there's been more instances in the past I never really harped on because it wasn't really appropriate. But when you look at the different women that Oda's written, like Kaya, or with Belle and Nami's sister, like all of this, like all of them, he's done a really good job of writing them and writing them appropriately. I'll even throw Alvida in there, because Alvida represents one side of the female psyche too. So I can throw that in there. Oda's done a really good job of this, and to see those two kind of intertwining, it was very nice. Now, another thing that I thought was very interesting was you have the notorious coward Usopp being inspired while these two are fighting. There's this really cool sequence of events where Dorry and Broggy they're exchanging blows, and one of them actually uses his helmet, and he uses his helmet to block the axe. It's coming down. I believe that it's Dorry, but it's Broggy. I believe that it's coming down, and he uses the helmet to take the blunt force of the attack, and Usopp's like, man, if he would have been a second too late, he could have lost his head. And it shows two things: the level of skill and just the guts to do something like that, but it also shows that they mean what they say when they talk about going out on their own terms, when they talk about dying with honor and just seeing through the battle for whatever reasons. I really loved it, and I thought that it was symbolic to have Luffy kind of pass out at the end of the last chapter, and he says, so big. And I didn't think it was because you had these two fighting. I think that Luffy was just that thrown away or taken back by the level of honor and commitment that comes in it. And you see it at multiple times, especially at the end of the chapter, where that's huge with Luffy. And I'll get to that in a second, because that might mess around and be a separate video on its own, because I was really impressed with Luffy's actions at the end of the chapter. But the thing is you know, I'm going to make this one last point on seeing things through, and I'm going to leave it alone. And what I'm going to say is this, you know, watching those two continuing to fight, and after they've lost, they're kind of chumming it up with each other. It really reminds me of what it's like to watch the Lakers right now. You know, this is Kobe's final season. And you just see him chucking up the shots, going out there playing through injuries. He's done it his whole career. Somehow these guys have been fighting for over 100 years. And the thing is you're watching all of this. You know that he's torn his Achilles, broken his kneecap, broken his shoulder, just in the last 3 years. And he's continuing to tough it out because he wants to play through the season and go out on his own terms. And it just speaks to the male psyche. And that works back to Usopp in that I watched it myself. Kobe would never admit this, but I've been a Lakers fan for as long as I can remember. And I've been a Kobe fan for almost as long. And when he first came back, I watched how he didn't trust his jump shot. He didn't trust his body. And you see things like Usopp, where Usopp's been a coward, but he's kind of pushed through it. And he's been inspired by this. You know, and when he explains, I want to be a brave warrior just like these guys, and I would like to go to their village. That's what I'm talking about. Like that's that male stuff right there, where you get so inspired by something that seems like it's impossible, that even if you know that Usopp might continue to be a coward, but this is going to have an effect on him going forward. You know, he's going to be more likely to at least think about throwing himself into it. And it really just makes him kind of chase after his dream. And now I'm going to get into the whole thing with Luffy. And I'm just going to put this into this review now. I'm not going to make 2 separate videos on it. Just made that decision on a whim. But when the chapter is ending off, you have Broggy and Dorry. They're drinking the ale, and the ale actually ends up exploding, okay? And this is after we find out the whole reason why there are skeletons on the island. They've been hunted down by dinosaurs. Some of them try to fight the 2 giants. And the log posse, it's going to take a year in order to be fixed, right? And what ends up happening is nobody's ever made it. And Broggy tells Luffy, like, look, you don't even need your log, just go ahead and leave. With your luck, you might get there. And it's because Vivi's getting visibly shaken because she's like, what's going to happen to my kingdom? And I like how Oda just slipped that back in there, because I hated how that was not brought up in the last chapter about the year, because they were on a time-sensitive mission. So I like that. That's what I mean. It's copy editing. He missed it last week, and he slipped it in for this week's chapter, or rather, you know, if you look at it from like week by week serialization. So the other thing on this is when that stuff explodes, you know, Luffy and them, they don't know what the hell's going on. And they know that the 2 giants know that they didn't do it to each other. And Luffy knows that. And Vivi, again, with women, everything's all interconnected. She's thinking it's got to be one of them. And Luffy's like, no, like, you wouldn't do something like this. Because Vivi's just looking at it. They've been at it for 100 years. And the logical person would just try and find a way to get the upper hand, even if it's doing something dastardly. And that's what I mean when I say interconnected. She took everything that happened, that was going on, and she tried to make it all fit into one box. Similar, and I don't mean to offend my 13%, so if I'm offending you, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll write I'm sorry. But it's similar how you go into most women's purses, they got everything inside their purse. Everything's all interconnected. Luffy, it's just like a man's wallet, man. I don't have mine on me, but you know, man's wallet, you know, you just got the bare essentials right there. And with Luffy, he's just looking at like, we didn't do this, they didn't do it, somebody else is doing it. And those 2 giants are getting pissed off. And now this is going to be interesting, because is Usopp going to have to fight, or is Sanji or Zoro going to have to step in? This is going to be huge. But Luffy basically tells Vivi, hold my hat. And I'm going to show this panel, because this is damn sure worth it. Luffy's just like, it's useless to run. And he says, hold this for a minute. Look at this, man. I said, hold this for a minute, but look at this. Luffy's like, sorry, mister, but I'm going to have to shut you up. And you see the veins kind of popping out in his fist, and he's getting ready to crack his knuckles. He might already be cracking them. But that face right there, Luffy's getting down to business, man. And that's why, like, if you just look at the way that everything's shown, you got the two faces. It's kind of similar to how you got the old Dragon Ball Z fillers where in the actual fights you had a whole bunch of face shots. Like, it'd be 3 minutes of staring and then they'll get back into fighting. And you got right here, that just really reminds me that you got the two people staring each other down before they go at each other. So I'm really excited. You know, this was a really nice way to end off the volume. You know, I've got the 3-in-1, so, you know, I'll be flipping over a few pages. But this is what I mean. Like, your last page your last page has to act as like a cliffhanger. It's gonna make people want to keep reading. And this was big. Because Luffy taking on a giant. I don't know how this is gonna happen, but I personally hope it's a pretty good fight, because this is what I wanted to see during the war arc with Naruto and the Jubi, okay? I didn't want to see them turn into fucking Power Rangers and Transformers where Naruto's inside the QB and the QB's like 7,000 feet big and Sasuke's like, Susanoo Zord, I summon you, whatever the fuck the Power Rangers said. I don't even remember, but you know they were sitting inside the different Zords and they made the Megazord and all that. That's what the Susanoo reminded me of. I hated seeing that. I hated it. Like the big bodies slant, I hated all that. I wanted to see them people against giants, you know? I wanted to see that type of stuff. And you got Luffy. Like Luffy, like I can't wait for this, man. Like I'm about to read this now. But my chapter question for you guys is going to be this. If you're a man, has there ever been a time where you've had to see things through regardless of whether or not you knew things are going to go in your favor, you know? And I'm going to refine that question a little more. I'm talking about specifically in a moment where your pride was driving your actions, your honor was driving your actions. And if you're a woman, was there ever a time where you're watching something like this take place? What was going on through your mind? Were you thinking like Nami and Vivi, or did you understand like, okay, sometimes things have to just run their natural course? But that's it for this review, guys. If you liked anything I had to say, as always, comment, rate, subscribe, and share. I'll greatly appreciate it. That's it. Thanks for watching Kryptonia saying. Have an awesome day.